TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? A place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah Podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampered in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Hey, how's it going, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah Podcast. Excited and delighted to be with you guys in another impromptu interview. We're doing this live on YouTube on a Wednesday night, my time. My guest is in another time zone. It's another day, but we're going to get into that shortly. Really excited to be here with you guys and always to share this sacred space with you guys. Cover all things spiritual, all things, nothing left off the table. Whether we agree with it or not, or whatever, how crazy it may sound, you know, it doesn't matter. We're just at least open to having that conversation, and there's a lot of freedom in that. So we're going to get into a little bit of that today, and I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who has been supporting my work through Patreon. This is a listener-supported show, my podcast, my music, everything that I'm bringing to the table. I would not be able to do it without your help. So again, thank you guys from the bottom of my heart, everybody who has partnered with me via Patreon, who's sharing the vision with me. And like I said, I could not do this without you. If you'd like to support, head on over to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, our Thursday night School of the Mystics hangout sessions that we do. There's also some other tiers there as well to be a part of our Sunday Seer class that we just started last week, and it was beautiful, and there's a bunch of people joining us over there for that. So if you're looking for a community, we're making sure that we're bringing it to you no matter where you're located. We're taking advantage of the technology, Discord apps and communities, and people who are here for you, man. So we're taking that excuse away that nobody will listen to me. Nobody's been through what I've been through. So we're just letting you know you're not alone, man. And I know there's power in that. It's as simple as you're not alone, because so many people feel marginalized and feel like they're just out there going through this stuff by themselves. But guess what? You're not alone. And we're going to hear about that here in a few minutes. So thank you guys for all the support. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. We're going to jump right into this. Tonight, my guest is Jenny, who is the founder of Christalignment. Jenny, welcome to the podcast. How are you, my friend?
Thank you, Derek. It's great to be here.
Oh, I've been looking forward to this. I first sent an email probably a year ago, and then just somewhere in the spirit, the name came up again, and I was like, send the email again. I sent it again, and you replied right back and said, hey, let's talk. And now we're here. We're going to do this episode, and I'm excited to hear about your story, the work that the Lord's doing in your ministry and in your heart, and excited to get into some of these encounters and stuff as well.
Yeah, awesome. Let's do it.
For an opener, for people who aren't familiar with what you do and what you bring to the table, just kind of tell people what you do now, and then we'll get into some background on testimony and things like that too.
Okay. Well, we run a team of seers And we attend all of Australia's largest New Age festivals. We're probably Australia's largest group that are Christ-based that go into the New Age in Australia. When I say Christ-based, everyone on the team has actually had an experience with Christ. Wow. And we don't channel other spirits and we don't use other realms. So we're a team of seers and healers that are using only a heavenly realm, which we love, which we find safe and absolutely amazing and inspirational. And our core value is to take healing to people that need it, people that anyone really. We don't have a qualification about the type of people, but we do specialize in New Age events in Australia.
That's awesome. Yeah. I've seen some powerful videos. Are you guys involved with the normal Christian life? Those were some videos that went viral that was really awesome out of Australia. People going to some of the festivals, dealing with people who are having bad trips and bad encounters and stuff like that.
Yeah, we know those guys and we love them. But that video actually did not work well for the Christian church as a whole in Australia. And they have some regrets about making that video. They actually even got death threats after making that video because of that video now, all ministries that are associated with the Christian life are banned or suspect in Australia, and we can't get into music festivals largely because of that video. So it actually had a very negative effect overall on ministry.
Wow. That's interesting, and I know me and you have went back and forth about a lot of crazy encounters that you've had. I've had them too, but they're almost like a badge of honor, though. I think part of like the persecution and what makes it hard to bring this stuff to the table. At the end of the day, it's like the anointing is what when you're being pressed, they're gonna get that oil out, and I think that's the refiner's fire that we go through, and I think it's showing in your ministry. It's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about your testimony, where you came from, because I know you come from some pretty intense realms as well, which kind of gives you a little bit more of an authority to kind of speak on this stuff, even to just talking about your testimony, your background.
Yeah, thank you. I had an encounter with Christ when I was 22 years old. I actually saw him. Before that, I was a real hippie. I lived in an art commune in Australia. I am an artist, and so I lived in an art commune with everything that's associated with a hippie art commune in the 1970s. It was the time in America and Australia of the Jesus Revolution, the Jesus people. So I came out of that time of and had this experience of seeing him for myself when I was 22, and everything just went from there. My dad is a nudist. He's not. I do not come from a religious background at all. So I guess you'd say Ken, my husband, who's the joint founder of this ministry, he's come from an even more extreme New Age background. His mother taught him how to do astral projection, astral traveling. And then he went in and became a Buddhist. So he came from a more extreme New Age background than I did before I met him. And then he also had an experience with Christ as well.
That's awesome. We may be jumping the gun a little bit, but just talking about these encounters with Christ, you lead people out of some of the dark occult arts and things like that. And people are going on vision quests and having these experiences and things like that. And they're having their own personal encounters with Christ as well, right?
Yes, that is correct. Derek, that's so right. And that's the core. The main thing that we do in our destiny readings is actually take people into an amazing encounter in the third heaven realm, where many of them, over half of them, the clients that we see, do actually see Jesus standing in front of them, and they're talking directly to him. So obviously that has a really big impact on their lives and brings a lot of healing as well.
How does that work? Because I know people talking about channeling spirits, and I know that we're in a position as believers that we can get impressions from the Holy Spirit, words of knowledge, words of wisdom, words of encouragement. Now, were they having this one-on-one with Christ in the trance state, or are you communicating what the Lord would say to them in that situation?
We're really leading them. It's pretty simple. It only lasts about 15 minutes usually. And we came up with a way of being able to lead them on a really detailed guided encounter, which is an imaginary encounter, but then it becomes incredibly real.
That's good stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. And they're seeing all kinds of things, which has upset an incredible amount of church people, because they say this can't happen. Like Jesus can't rock up as a seagull, or Jesus can't rock up as a dead relative. But actually we've found in the 9 years of this ministry that Jesus will rock up and show up and do whatever he wants to do, and he is. And he's showing up in incredible ways to people that don't know him yet because he loves them so much.
Yeah, he does, man. People are having encounters with Christ speaking through other means and stuff. You said an eagle or something, or just like animals.
Well,
how's that work?
Sometimes, but usually he's standing right there in front of them, and we ask them to describe him, and they describe what they're seeing. They don't know who it is usually in the encounter, but you could basically always say he looks a bit like you, Derek.
That's what I was going to ask. Does he look like me?
Yeah, he does. I know what he's saying. He's got dark hair, he's got a beard, he's wearing long robes. And don't forget, these are people that definitely do not come from a religious background. And they actually don't know who they're talking to, who they're seeing at first. But often they ask him, who are you? And he will say, I am Jesus Christ, in the encounter. So he's actually talking to them and giving them the answers to their questions, because the reason they come to us, of course, is because they think we're psychics, and they believe that we've got the answer to their deep life questions.
There's something particular about the New Age realm and people who are into the spiritual movements, is the fact that they're seeking. You don't have to see. I felt like in Christendom, and even like trying to reach people for Christ or share my story, I was trying to convince them of something. I just need to let you see him. However, if you have to see him through my life, if you have to see him through a meditation, I just need you to see him, because he's so beautiful. It'll change your life, right?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
The amazing thing is that we've only been using this type of encounter now for 1.5 years, and the results are just stunning. And the amazing thing is that now we don't have to do anything.
Yep.
All we do is we hold their hands, we take them into that place, and the Spirit is doing the rest. And they come out of it crying, weeping, on their knees even. Yeah. They get healed of illnesses within that encounter, especially the issue of dead relatives, because many people are going to psychics now in Australia by the thousands to try and connect with their dead relative.
And you had an encounter with that as well, right? Or just I don't know about an encounter, but a belief system that the Lord spoke to you, which spoke healing to that maybe ungodly belief, or this place where you didn't know what was going to happen on the other side. You had an amazing encounter about that you shared, right? If you want to share that story, that'd be awesome.
You mean to me personally?
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Yes, I did. Well, I actually saw him. I saw him in physical form standing in front of me, but I couldn't see his face because it was too bright. There was just like white light coming from his face, and I was unable to move for about 3 hours.
Wow.
So I was stuck.
Where
and
were
my friends
you?
all left the building, and I was still stuck.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And from that day onwards, I decided to find out if he is really true. And I think that's a core question that anyone who is spiritually seeking should always be asking is, is this real? Is this person real? Is he alive now? Did he really live on earth 2,000 years ago? And I started asking that question in all seriousness. And the more I got into it, the more I started to have more and more encounters with him and to know his love.
That's so beautiful. I've had an encounter that was, that was very similar. But I didn't see, it was like a silhouette of light. It was beautiful. His heart was communicated like through feelings, through emotions. And it was this beautiful euphoria of Christ. But then again, it was like this weeping and, I hurt for humanity. I need you to tell them. I need you to reach them. And it was agonizing, but euphoric all at the same time.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it'll change your life, man. It's so good.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So as far as concerning, you were speaking about people trying to reach out to their dead relatives or maybe messing with Ouija boards and things like that. Whatever the case is, people are hungry for the supernatural. You also had an encounter where you lost someone close to you and you was trying to get clarity on what happens on the other side, and you had an encounter through that, correct?
I lost my husband through suicide because I nursed him for 5 years. He got very, very sick, and I nursed him for 5 years. The good thing is he knew where he was going. He had an amazing relationship already with Christ, so I knew where he was going. He did that. He committed suicide to relieve our family of what we were going through. But unfortunately, the children were very small, and it had a profound effect upon them. And I do remember one of the key questions I was asking after he died is, where are you?
Yeah.
And I find this is very common with people that have lost someone now. It's all very well to say all your life, well, heaven doesn't exist, all this doesn't exist. But when someone dies, it becomes a key question that you want clarity and you want peace to know where that person is. And so I ask that question every day, amid many tears, even though I already believed in heaven, but I still ask that question, where is he?
Yeah.
And I did get the answer on that. Yeah.
'Cause there's a lot of ungodly beliefs when it comes to suicide, when it comes to hell or this place of torment. We have to discuss it just because it's being more accepted as an option now. I'm seeing a lot of memes on Facebook, and I've been talking about this lately, where people are sharing memes making fun of suicide. There's a particular meme of a baby who was just born on the operating table with its mother, and he looks mad. The baby looks mad, and the caption says, when you committed suicide, but you reincarnated 5 minutes later, and he was mad that he came back to this place. This whole thing, even with my show, I like to, I have different people on, psychics, people of different belief systems or whatever, and I'm open to searching out stuff and then relating it back to the scriptures. I have a lot of guests who are really big into the past life things. How do you feel about that? Because that's never resonated with me, and I've heard people just and even close friends talk about, like, I just want to try again. Let me push the reset button, reincarnate, because I've just I've had enough trauma that one soul can take. Let me try it again. And they look at it like an option. I don't believe that that's the case at all. How do you feel about the whole reincarnation and suicide aspect of it as well, like it's an option or something?
Well, we personally don't believe in reincarnation because we believe that your higher purpose isn't to come back as a rat or a dog.
Or a germ or something. A germ.
I just can't get at that belief, because I can sense and I know that people are born for a destiny, and their destiny is eternal. And I believe that their value as a person isn't just a pile of dust when you die in a coffin. And I don't believe it's as a rat or a pig or a dog or something either. So for us personally, we don't, but we do deal with our clients. Many of them believe in that, and many of our clients we see do believe in past lives.
Yeah.
But they usually come to us because often they're in a mess, because they are believing in that.
True. We've been talking a little bit because I have friends who believe in that, and I particularly don't. I don't want to make fun of them or belittle them, but I just don't believe it. No. One thing we did discuss I thought was interesting, that said that people are having these so-called past life encounters. Maybe they're tapping into their own DNA in their family lineage, and they're able not to see their past lives, but the lives of their ancestors, something that their great grandmother experienced that's coming through the family line that they're getting glimpses of. That sounds a little bit more feasible versus I was a astrologer from Lemuria who collected crystals, or a magician. Always these grandiose things, usually things that people want to be in this life, but they aren't, or they can't. They'll say, well, in a past life, I was a great ruler, or, something like that. It's interesting even to look at the psychology behind it.
That's right. It is,
And also researching, you got past life regressions, but I believe I've found in something through hypnotherapy, something called suggestive memories. So if somebody's leading you on this type of experience and they're suggesting that you were this, and then you receive it. And I get messages from people who believe that they were from Lemuria and they was a cat goddess on Venus and all of these weird identities that's not them, but they accept it as a persona or another spirit. Is that dangerous for us to even entertain some of this stuff? Because it can be, obviously, right? We definitely do say that it is very dangerous, because out there in a lower realm are millions and millions of spirit guides, and those spirit guides are waiting for a human body to inhabit, we believe. And we've had much experience with this, of getting rid of these spirit guides, and they're quite hard to get rid of. And we believe that they are waiting for a chance to channel a human being, to connect into a human being. We have seen when they can't do that, they will even go into animals, but they would prefer a human being. And the sad thing is that I think a lot of people are searching for their identity. And they don't know their identity. And I think the past life thing is a cry for, who am I? I need significance. Who am I? And plus, as you said, I think it's also a cry to be connected to past generations, which is an awesome human trait, actually. I don't think it's necessarily bad. I think it's actually an awesome thing to want to be connected to your grandmother or to, people in the family line. I don't know about the cat goddess, or we get a lot of Zeus. We get Zeus all the time. Zeus. I don't know why they want to be Zeus, but we get that all the time. It's interesting. It opens up a lot of doors, but you definitely. Here's the thing with me. I always say, be careful. I come from crazy occult demon possession myself. I come out of that and into the light of Christ, and then now I'm able to kind of go back and re-look at some of those things, especially from a biblical point of view, because there's a lot of these types of ideas, encounters with light beings, and it literally being Jesus, not being some kind of deceptive new age thing that's trying to possess you, which that could be out there as well. But a lot of this type of stuff is in the Bible. And that's why I wanted to have you on, because the more studying that we're doing, the more examples you see of people walking in their spiritual giftings, their abilities. some would say, being able to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, to be able to smell the sweet aroma or fragrance, and using our senses to move in the Spirit. And we look at Jesus, and he was doing it, the disciples, the prophets, the seers, and it becomes more beautiful. And so a lot of what we see with the modern Western church is that they've kind of just given it over to the New Age, all the cool stuff. So. They've just given it to them. Like, okay, you take it.
For sure,
but I'm taking it back. It's ours,
absolutely, man. We get a lot of clients that say they're light workers. That's a very common thing at some of the big festivals here. And our answer to that is, hey, dude, you've come to the right place, because Jesus is the ultimate light worker. Like, he came from another planet. He owns the planet. So, like, come and experience that, because this is the ultimate light worker. And there's a lot of people, I think, their belief in that is part of their spiritual journey. And we certainly don't tell people that they're wrong in their spiritual journey, because their values and their beliefs are just as important as ours. And I think that's been a big mistake in the church, has been to alienate people by saying, we've got the only right belief system and you guys haven't, so therefore you're all crazy or whatever.
It's so easy to do that in Christianity, man.
Yeah, it is. But actually, they probably think we're crazy because, if we're operating in word of knowledge, which we are all the time, we look like psychics and we look like we're crazy. So it can equally be said on both sides, I think.
Now, I know you may have a problem with some of the phrases and terminology from New Age as far as accepting it of yourself, but do people introduce you as a psychic or call you a Christian psychic? Are you cool with that, or do you say no, I'm more of a prophetess or a seer or something like that?
We're never cool with really being labeled as Christian psychics, because we believe that we are seers just living out a normal everyday life because of a relationship with Jesus, and that makes us healers and seers. But most people that come to us, their first face value of the whole team is that we are up in the psychic league. We're as powerful as the other psychics in the building. We're as powerful as I keep getting called a high priestess, and they'll say, like, what goddess are you channeling? Because it's pretty high. And we're comfortable with that. We don't care about that. Yeah.
Who was it? Joseph, that was even... they were talking about Joseph in the Bible and said, hey, come meet this person who has the spirit of all the gods dwelling in him, essentially, right? He was grandiose when it came to, I don't know if you want to call it Egyptian magic, but I guess spirituality at the same time, and he was out there with them.
I think Joseph is like our role model for the whole team, because he was a key dream interpreter. And on our team, we have 3 really key dream interpreters, and sometimes interpreting one person's dream will actually entirely change their life. Yeah. And that's really amazing to watch that and to see that. But I like to think of our whole team and myself as very trained seers, that we're not just puddling around in it. We're actually proud to offer a service that is of a very, very high standard, and we maintain that standard regularly too.
That's awesome you say that, trained, because there's a scripture that always stands out to me, and this is the way that I've always interpreted it once I had some experience in me. The spirit of the prophets is subject unto the prophets. For me, that means if I was to go to a pastor or an evangelist or an apostle and tell them the things that I see and hear,
Yeah.
they're going to say, okay, we need to get you some help. We need to pray. We need to pray these things off of you. And it could very well be that you're hearing, you're sensitive to the spirit realm as a gifting, as a seer, as a prophet, even kids. I mean, we look at the Bible, like a lot of these people were actually very young when they were moving in their giftings and abilities. So you need to find someone who's been through that. You can't just go to some random person and say, hey, I've had a dream where this stuff happened. They'll take it, and I mean, that's when the scripture talks about throwing your pearls before swine as well, right? You need to seek somebody out who is trained. In the Bible, there were a school of prophets where they practiced, they taught, they they actually knew what they were doing. So that's beautiful that you say that you actually train people up in this.
We're very fussy about training. We're also very fussy about their own health spiritually. We're very fussy about the team. They cannot be on the team with any addictions. So we're very fussy about the people on the team, about their gifting, and we protect that fiercely because that gifting is very powerful, but that gifting can also be very dangerous.
It definitely can. And the whole thing you see with that when the scripture says is that the giftings and callings are without repentance. There's people who are still operating in that, but they're living a life of debauchery and sin and taking advantage of people on both sides of the cross, before the cross and after the cross, right? Absolutely. And you see that going on. And there was a ministry, I'm not going to say the name, but I knew somebody in particular who went there where they let a lot of prophets come in. This is somewhere in the South, and I knew a guy who was actually smoking crack, and they would let him come in and prophesy over people. You have to be protective over this. I don't play with this at all. This isn't nothing. Hey, let's try it. Let's have fun. It is fun, right? But it's very serious at the same time, and it takes a life of dedication as well, right?
Yeah, it's people's lives that we're dealing with. And I mean, each client that comes to us, we treat them incredibly seriously because they're coming to us in a vulnerable position. They're coming to us with a very serious life question that they want answered. And I do believe that Christ, when he was on earth, I believe that he valued people and that was so sensitive towards their hearts so incredibly well that we want to do that too. There's a lot of we have a lot of psychics coming to us for a word as well. And they are seers, and it's very interesting. There was one account at one festival when one of our team members actually had an incredibly strong porn addiction that we didn't know about. And I sent 4 psychics to him for a reading in a row, and all 4 refused to go to him without ever knowing him before. And so that highlighted to me the fact that the spiritual realm is real, and lower spirits, spirit guides and familiar spirits in that realm, they actually see and know a lot of stuff about people and about Christians too, that I think by and large Christians are very ignorant and unaware of this, that the spirit realm is so real that they can actually read stuff and see stuff about us too. So identity is the key, because if you're not walking out a true identity and living out Christ in you, it actually is very dangerous, I believe.
Yeah, you definitely have to know who you are. It is dangerous. There's spirits of intimidation that, like you said, they know your shortcomings. They know about your past, and they can call it out, and they play off of your your weaknesses. And you have to deal with those spirits. You have to make sure you're walking that fine line, and there's no hidden sin. You really do.
No. And that makes us better seers too, because then we're able to only access a pure heavenly source. So we're only operating and speaking into people's lives. I think the good thing about Christalignment is that we dialogue with the person all the time. So if the person doesn't like us, or they think, it's garbage what we're saying, they can just get up and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have to stay. There's no commitment. There's no pressure. There's no pushing. There's no trying to convert somebody. They're free to use our service and then walk away and say whatever they want about that service.
Mm-hmm. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I know we just talked about your testimony a little bit, but what were some of the things that you used to do or experience when you was on the dark side?
Oh, it was pretty bad on the dark side. The hippie art commune I was in, well, the drug in those days was marijuana, not all the ones now. And the house would be constantly filled with that smell. They used to grow it themselves, so that the trips were pretty wild. And everyone would basically swap partners every night. So there was a lot of a darkness that came over me as an artist, because I do believe art is a reflection of your soul. And the drawings and the images that I was able to draw during that time, when I look back on them now, are pretty wild and pretty scary, because they were so dark, and they were images from a realm that I did not know that I was involved in or in contact with, but definitely I was part of a realm that is very dark. And the difference in changing realms was so huge. It took me months and months and months to get used to to light and to love and to peace, because there was not love and peace in that other realm. Yeah, it was very a drug-induced hippie world in the art world then, back in the 60s and 70s. And a lot of things were going on that shouldn't have gone on, and a lot of little kids too in families were subject to seeing things that they should never have seen, which have probably affected them maybe for the rest of their lives.
Yeah. When it comes to like spiritual entities, when you were on that side, did you ever experience anything supernatural? And then
I did.
Okay,
yeah.
let's hear some of the stuff you've dealt with on that side.
I think I was a visionary even as a small child, because I do remember at age 4 having an incredible encounter with, I'll say, God in a backyard of a neighbour's house, and I still remember that encounter to this day. But at the same time, even when I was 4 in our backyard, I was aware of spirits, of the presence of spirits in my own family home backyard. And indeed, my mother used to set 2 places at the dining table for my 2 spirit friends. So they were my constant companions. They were both male, and they were both about 17 years old. So they were very real, and I was very, very young. And what that did is it put a fear into me, a fear that I could never identify, a fear that was always lurking in the background. And I used to blame my family. I used to look for the solution in other things, and I could never quite identify what it is. There was a malevolent presence that I could not actually identify till years and years later, till I was on the other side, and I had to actually get a lot of counselling to go way back to find out what was actually happening in the backyard of my home. And there are many clients that we see 4 days a week that have the very same experience, and we actually now almost specialize in getting rid of sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
And we find that sleep paralysis is a very big thing to do with spirits.
We've been discussing that a lot lately too, with a few different guests. What do you feel about the sleep paralysis thing happening to people when they're young? Almost people who are destined to do great things for the kingdom.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, let me scare them. I want to kill them. I can't. I can't. Yeah. But let me just scare them. And it's usually those people who are have a calling upon their life to do great things. And it's like, I'm trying to scare them away from anything spiritual. But it ends up bringing them deeper into it, really, because, hey, something's happening out there. Would you agree with that? Does that kind of happen?
Totally. I completely agree with that, Derek. I really feel like most of these people have this incredible call on their lives or are incredible seers. And because they're gifted so much in seeing, they will see darkness and light as well. So the dark side is drawn to a seer. And I do agree. We've seen that at firsthand, that many, many children are already born with a great gifting in supernatural seeing into the realm of heaven, into the realm of God. But the enemy, or the one that doesn't want them to move into their destiny, will do anything to actually attract their attention or draw them into a copy realm or another realm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, when I was into some of the darker stuff, right, years ago, not some of the darker stuff, a lot of darker stuff, at least the spirits, or like you say, the realm that I was in was a lower level realm. And I've tried to explain it like this. We hear the word vibration a lot. I kind of like that. I kind of like that word because it's just essentially the spirit or the essence that you live at, like you dwell upon that level. And I feel like when I was tapping into the spirit realm years ago, I was dealing with demons and unclean spirits and all types of negative entities that wanted to get me. And I ended up becoming possessed, opening up my mind and my heart to all of these entities because I wanted an encounter. I got possessed. That was in 1998, right? Years ago, I come out of that. The Lord delivered me. I'm on this side. Now, anytime I meditate, I go into my prayer closet. I receive visions and dreams from the Lord. I'm able to access these higher realms. No demons. No, I'm not dealing with any of that. And I feel like it's because, and we may have heard this in the New Age, but I think if we explain it from a believer's perspective, it's the fact that you're not entertaining those type of entities because your level of density, your vibration is so much higher up here with the angels, and you're not lying, cheating, robbing, stealing, backbiting. When you do those type of things, you attract those type of beings in your life. So does that make sense to you? Like when you tap in, do you like have to worry about demons messing with you, like in your own personal space, no. In fact, it's the reverse, because you mess with them now. Casting them out.
That's it. There's a minute where I stepped over into the realm of light. It is pure light and it is extreme light. And I agree with it about the vibrations too, because it actually says that the whole of heaven is filled with sound and color and vibration. And I really do believe that people have underestimated Christ's spirit, the spirit of Christ. They've underestimated kind of how powerful he actually is. And if you have that spirit now living inside you, as you said, you were possessed before by negative spirits. If you now transfer, you no longer have the negative, but you actually have the risen power and the full love of the whole of the Spirit of Christ inside your own body. Basically, nothing can go wrong, because you've really got no excuse either for anything going wrong, because you've actually now just invited in light and love, pure love.
And that's what you experience when you go in, right?
Cannot stay with that.
They can't even comprehend it, right? That's what the Bible says.
No, they cannot. Darkness cannot stay with light. It just doesn't mix. And some clients will even say to us, well, we want Christ's spirit. We want him in our lives, but we also like our spirit guide. we've had that one for
they just want a new one to come in. Let me try. I'll try it. Why not?
Yeah. We just have to tell them that no, it's not a sharing business with the spirit guides. They're actually very malevolent, and they're out to really cause harm in your life. So it's one or the other.
Is that all of them, though? Do you think that anything outside of Christ is demonic or some type of false spirit?
I do.
What about the angels, though? What about if someone says
accepting angels? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Angels. Many people see angels all the time, as you know, and angels are messengers sent to help us, I believe, and sent with great messages for human beings. And definitely we are aware as a team of the presence of angels, and many times people have sat down for a reading and said to us that they start shaking, and we say to them, why are you shaking? And they say, there's two huge white beings standing right behind you.
Yeah. So
that's very real. That's happened many times, and people have had near-death experiences where they've said they've seen a white being. And this is definitely, I'm not talking as a Christian, I'm talking as just as a human being. Many thousands and millions of people, I believe, have actually had the presence of angels, because God's love is so great. He's not saying to people, I'm only going to help you, or I'm only going to rescue you. If you're a church-going Christian, it's just rubbish. Like God's presence on the earth, in the trees, in nature, in animals, is there all around for everybody to enjoy and see, not just for Christians. So,
I had a thought come to me earlier today, and it was like just looking at God, of just seeing God in everything now, right? Everything. Yeah. Every single thing. So I was thinking about, the whole fact of like a lot of Christians, or we used to, or have, or sometimes still do, put God in a box, right? And so God is in the box. So then you're like, hold on, God is not in the box. God is the box. You're like, hold on, wait, no. God is the table that the box is. He is the box, but he's also the table the box is sitting on.
That's it.
Okay, well, he's also the house that the table's in. Okay, now he's also the ground and the earth, that the foundation that the house is. He's in all and through all. The Lord is one, and it's just it's so beautiful. I had that thought come to me today, meditating upon the Lord.
That's an awesome thought, Derek. Yeah, I often, Ken and I like to get away. We like to go away to nature, just nature.
Oh, yeah.
And actually, we've written a scientific paper on sea eagles that are quite rare in Australia, and we've done a paper on them. And during that time, we had the rare opportunity for 8 years of being out on a boat just with the eagles, out on lakes where no people were at all. And you don't have to even believe in God or even have had any experience whatsoever with Christ to be able to know and feel the love of God, which is in every plant, in every tree, in every created bird. You can feel it, you can sense it when no one else is around, when you're just alone with nature. I believe that every human being on the planet does have a recognition inside their heart of really who God is by just that. Yeah.
Have you ever experienced God through the breath, or experienced the Holy Spirit through the pneuma, just breathing in, and when you breathe, you can feel that love on the breath? Have you experienced the Lord that way?
That's pretty awesome. Me personally, only probably a little bit, but I have got team members that have definitely experienced that. But for me personally, I know what you're meaning, because you can feel the breath of God in everything, even in the wind and the sun. I believe that his breath is just everywhere. It permeates every part of our lives, of nature, everywhere. And I do believe people can breathe in the breath of God.
Yeah,
I do.
And well, okay, I'm just talking about just breathing, and you can be conscious and aware of the breath. I believe in that. But there's some people who they get really far out and they just like they just like choking the ghost and just getting high off of the breath, and that's all they do. I'm not talking about that sense, because there's always a balance to all of this stuff. If the only thing that we know you for is this, you're not well rounded. You only have this one thing that you're known for, whatever the case is. I think there's a balance to it all, and we can get out of whack if we're too far in one realm, we're too far in this realm. It's really a balance of walking what the Bible calls the the straight and narrow path. It's the path of Christ. It's not too far to the left or to the right, but it's a perfect place in the middle, which is the scriptures even call it the highway of holiness, which is a good way to put it as well in the Old Testament.
It is. So, it's easy, very easy to go off onto our own imagination. And
we get fascinated by things, thoughts. Though, right?
We do,
Oh, look at this! Wow,
Exactly. Yeah, But it is really important to keep relationship, because after all, it's only the relationship with God that really can, I believe, inspire or empower a human being, the relationship. So if you take out relationship, you're just left probably in a bit of a mess, because you're trying to figure out everything with your brain. I believe people are mind, body, spirit, not just mind, body.
Yeah.
So they're mind, body, spirit, and we're constantly educating people, our clients especially, not to ignore the spiritual side of their lives, which is so easy to do, especially in a modern city, in a big city, you're working. It's very easy to just shut out the whole spiritual side of your life right down, and you'll suffer eventually for that.
Definitely. There's some comments here, even in the chat. Davo says, "The Creator is inside you." It says in the New Testament that this whole mystery of life, essentially, right? The whole Old Testament, just everything they were looking forward to is like Christ in you, the hope of glory, to understand that our body is the temple of God, and he doesn't dwell in temples made with hand, but he dwells within your body and comes to abide in you. But when somebody finds that out, it takes the power away from any outside source, whether it be religion, dogma, doctrine, falsehood, or whatever. And it just gives the glory to God, because he wants to dwell within each and every one of us.
Totally. And that's the forgotten thing. I think that, unfortunately, religion and the church in past history has not portrayed that God. But I really believe that we're coming back to it, into a pure understanding of who really God is, that he actually isn't, he does live, he loves every human being with an adorable love. Like we're nearly in tears with our clients when they start going into the encounter, because they can't invent that. They can't imagine it. All it is pure love coming from God, reaching into their very heart. And it's something that you can't even put words to, but the love, every human being is a divine creation, is an image of God, is an absolutely superb creation made in love, destined for relationship. But unfortunately, people have been sidetracked and sideswiped out of the relationship bit. As soon as they can get back into relationship, they will see their whole life change, and their whole life will go back on track. They'll get answers, they'll get purpose, they'll get everything will start to fall into place. I
couldn't do Christianity without the Spirit of Christ. No. I've been there, and you can get there. You go through the motions, you get good, you know what you're supposed to do, but your heart's not there, and that relationship's there, and it becomes one of the most darkest things ever to be involved in religion without the Spirit of Christ moving through you and say, hold on, he's not here at all. I got to get out of this.
Yeah.
I got to check myself and see, where did I leave him at? I left him at the door. I left him here. I left him 6 months ago. You know, he still loves you. You're still connected, but you know, it's that relationship, and people need to look at it as far as the fact that just like a relationship with a friend or a lover, that you have to spend time with that person.
God's not scary, and a lot of people view him as scary, but we've had so many supernatural experiences that just cannot be explained, and that is what a lot of seers are searching for in all these other modalities. Like, they're searching for a very real supernatural experience, but in our experience in the team for 9 years, God is more than happy to rock up in people's world with a supernatural experience. In fact, he just can't wait to do it, and he will give it to them. He will go to where they are. He doesn't get you to find, you know, rules and religion. He's actually dying to blow up in your world with the most incredible supernatural experiences, and we've had and seen a real lot of those. And can I share one for myself?
Oh yeah, definitely.
My son Samuel, he started dying when he was 4 years old. He got a thing called necrotizing enteritis, which is like cancer of the bowel, and his bowels started coming outside of his body, like it disintegrated and came out of his body. And we hadn't named him yet, and the doctors told us, you'd better name him because he's probably going to die. This is at 4 days old, sorry.
No,
4 days old, not 4 years old. And so we named him Samuel, which means one who hears God. And we got a priest at the time came in and, you know, baptized him for death. But he whispered in my ear, he said, I'm actually baptizing him for life, for healing. A really incredible thing happened. He was taken away from us by air ambulance, taken to a specialist children's hospital in Melbourne. And for 2 weeks solid, my husband and I said, we don't accept this death. We're not going to allow it. We're not going to have this death. So for 2 weeks solid, we didn't speak in any English. We spoke in the heavenly language of angels that comes straight from heaven. For 2 weeks straight, no matter where we were, we didn't speak in English. We just spoke in that language. After 2 weeks, nearly to the day, we got a call from the hospital. And they said, we just don't know what happened. We've just taken an X-ray, but your son's whole intestine has grown back into his body. Yeah. We can't explain it, but it's there. You better come and get him because he's so healthy and he's screaming he wants milk. And and that was, to us, that was an amazing thing, as showing the power of the supernatural realm if you're tapped into the correct realm. If you're tapped in, anything can happen that is amazing and that is wonderful. Like, anything can happen. And some people have even seen dead people raised. We've seen a lot of healings.
That's awesome. It's just the power of speaking in tongues. I actually had a guy on. He was a youth leader and a worship leader as well, but he started having an awakening, reading other materials, asking questions, and they had no more use for him at the church. So he's trying to find his way in, but he came on the show a couple weeks ago, and Tom from Florida is what we call him. And he told a very similar story of his daughter, and she was like 8 years old maybe, if not younger. I'm probably off on her age, but she read a book, and in the book, the little girl had appendicitis in the book, and there was a weird transference of some type of spirit of fear, because after she read that book, she thought that her appendix was going to explode. And he's like, that's just a book. Don't worry about it. A week later, they rush her to the hospital from school because she's having crazy stomach issues. Her appendix bursted. And
Wow.
It was looking really bad, and so they started fasting and praying, and believing for a miracle, and they wouldn't believe the report of the doctor, and they seen a creative miracle as well with his daughter. And so that was a testimony that was on here a couple of weeks ago. That's very similar. It's awesome, man.
Wow. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
You also had I don't know if it's a divine encounter or a dream. You had a dream about ministry, maybe the ministry that you would be doing later in life. Is it coming to fruition, or what was the event where that took place?
Yeah, well, Ken and I, we never intended really to become psychics, you might say. We didn't intend to be at festivals. We didn't, even though we were hippies, like I said, from the 60s and 70s, we definitely both were hippies. But we didn't intend or form this ministry. In fact, I had a dream one night, and in the dream, I was chasing my mother's red purse, which was lost on a bus. And it went down a windy road to a town, and I could see the town very, very clearly in the dream. I retrieved the purse, and in the morning I looked up on Google what was the town, and the name, the spirit told me in the dream the name of the town was Port-au-Prince, and I had no knowledge of that town whatsoever. I looked it up on Google, and it was exactly as I saw it in the dream, which is the capital of Haiti. And the Spirit of God actually said to me, almost in an audible voice, he said, I'm about to take you and Ken into the very heart of witchcraft, into the capital of witchcraft. And my mother's red purse symbolized a generational calling. A purse is your heart, and red is power and anointing. And so he was showing me that by default, we actually never planned this to go this way, but by default, he had a calling on both Ken and I to go into darkness, into the very heart of darkness. So it meant that we have no fear at all. It also meant that we have incredible love for people trapped in it. And it also meant that there's no judgment on them. There's no judgment put on them in that place too.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And that all comes through dreams and the interpretation of dreams, right? Because if you didn't know it, you would be kind of shooting in the dark and not having anything. And there's example after example after example in the Bible where God openeth our ears while we sleep, and he speaks to us in the wee hours of the morning, and we have to seek it out. And that's a whole process too. The whole seeking out process is the fact that you have to just kind of prove that you want it. Like, I'll show it to you, but I'm just not going to give it to you. Show me that you want it. Show me that you're going to get to the bottom of it, and I'll work with you. Because a lot of times in the prophetic, like, people think that if God speaks to you, he'll say, hey, Jenny, tell that person I know who their daughter is. Sometimes it works like that. But most of the time it's like, I see a young girl wearing red, or the name so and so. Even with the dreams, we have a piece of it, and we have to like play detective. Okay, God, what does this mean? What does this mean? And then we see a billboard, or we see a person wearing that shirt. And it clicks, and it's like, okay, that's God. I'm following God. I'm not following anything else. And so there's a song and dance to it all, right?
Yeah. It's amazing. Like dreams are just incredible and transforming, and that again I think proves to people, because we have a free online dream interpretation service, and so we're getting email dreams from around the world quite regularly. But again, we don't let anyone on the team interpret a dream until they are trained, because we don't believe in untrained dream interpreters. But thus saying that, it's just incredible that the concept that the God of the universe, or whoever someone else might call him, that God loves people so much to bother to speak to 50 million people every night in a different dream with a different scenario with different colors, different symbols. It blows your mind. It's like it's almost unbelievable.
Yeah.
But it is real, but it's almost unbelievable.
I had a psychologist who deals with dream interpretation come on, and I thought I knew about dreams, but we were breaking down symbolism and God is creative. Like he uses what you know, whether it's a fear. We're scared of different things. We have different fears. So if we're addressing the spirit of fear, it may show up as a parent with a belt in my dream. In your dream, it could be falling off of a bicycle repeatedly over and over. There's just different ways. And so God just uses everything in our universe, in our mind, to kind of speak to us. And that's what's really cool.
It's so cool.
He does that with all of mankind, though. Like you were talking about nature and like writing his laws upon our hearts. And we know when we do something wrong. We don't have to be told like, hey, you did something wrong. Like we know through just because of nature and our hearts and our anatomy, the way we're created. We're fearfully and wonderfully made. Especially, we have to quote that when it comes to spiritual giftings and abilities, that it is no accident and things like that, Let me ask you this. I get some people, when it comes to opening the third eye, which I don't believe in that. Like it's a thing that you do to open it up. I think you can, you get better at sensing, your spiritual, the realm of the spirit and using that, the third eye pineal gland, if that's how we interpret all of the way God built us to see in the spirit, I can go with that. Some people want to turn it off because they maybe do techniques or try things and it becomes more than they can chew and they want to turn it off. Do you get people like that? And do you encourage them just to turn it off, or do you say, hey, you might be a seer. There is a right way and a wrong way to do this stuff. Yeah. How would you move forward with somebody like that?
For sure, we would say to them, you definitely are a seer, and usually they are very disturbed by what they're seeing. And so what they're seeing is bothering them, but actually it's only really because they are a seer destined to see really great things in God, that they're able to see darkness and other things as well. The third eye, we don't question that in a client, because if that's their belief, that they believe that. For me personally, I tend to think your spirit is in the stomach region. That's just what I feel. But it's interesting, whenever I do healing for people or cleansing from spirits, I do always put my hand right there on their forehead, and that seems to have the most effect. And I do believe it's like a portal into the brain, directly into the brain there. And I think the third eye thing is that they've tapped onto a little bit of truth there, but they've called it the third eye. But I do think there's a bit of truth that they've actually tapped into, because we've seen tremendous healings just by very gently touching that area on the face, and it's very interesting to find that out.
What about the base of the skull? When you put your hand there? I've listened to like New Age documentaries or occult stuff, and they give some insight on it, and then I'll do it in prayer, and they say that a lot of spirits will try to enter people through there as well.
Absolutely, totally. We've seen spirits enter there at the back of the head, at the base of the spine. Totally, that's another, I guess you'd say, portal.
Entryway. Let me ask you this too. So there is some other stuff out there where they'll say your right hand pushes more and your left hand pulls, just with the polarities and everything. Maybe this isn't true in the person's mind, and if they believe it, then it becomes true to them. But is there any truth, have you seen, with like, I use this hand to speak blessings, to release the things of the spirit, and this hand would be more used to pull those negative entities off and out of a person. Or it can be done however you want. Or do you see something with that?
It's interesting because a key dream interpreter, John Paul Jackson, who's now passed into heaven, he always firmly says that the right hand is your destiny hand, that you're reaching out into your destiny, and your left hand is your generational family side. So your left hand, your right hand in that sense is more predominant in that that's the hand, the visionary hand that reaches into destiny. And we've found that in dream interpretation and indeed even in tattoo interpretation to be very, very accurate.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the destiny cards, because that's something that I first found out about you guys with some stuff on the internet with the Christian ministry that uses tarot cards, or some weird campaign that someone did. I was led to, maybe it was after I found out about you guys, and I haven't done much research, and so most of the research I'm hearing is really from you, from our conversations over the last day, and so I've started using the tarot of the Most High. I found I got me some so-called Christian tarot cards, and I've used them through the word of wisdom and in prayer, asking what to go into next as far as prayer. And they have some different things on them. And I found them to be really interesting, just getting with the Lord and using them on a prayer line. We was taking phone calls, and somebody would call in and say, so-and-so's happening. I lost my lover. What happened? He's doing this. And I would pull the card that would say betrayal. And the Lord would say, just begin to minister to that area and speak it out. Or another one would be finances or whatever. And it was weird because every caller that we had, the card, it was like the Lord was showing me, it was like right on every time. And I'm like, people say, okay, you're reliant upon a card like that, or you don't need to be reliant on anything. And I'm like, no, they're tools. If you're able to see in the spirit, we have thousands of tools the Lord has given us.
Of course we do.
And they're scriptural examples when it comes to some things similar to the cards, for me anyway. What are the destiny cards? Because I know they're a little bit different than what we would say tarot cards, or even the tarot of the Most High. It's something specifically different, right? Yeah.
Well, we make all our own cards, so we're in control of what is on them. They are definitely not tarot in that they contain no occultic symbols on them at all. And we don't need the cards at all because we're operating fully in word of knowledge. We're able to give word of knowledge on the phone or whatever without the cards. They're just a tool, like you said.
If you don't need them, why use them, Jenny?
I know. I just go, people get so hung up about, I have texted back on Facebook, I've said, what's wrong with you guys? You're so hung up about a piece of paper. Yeah. And they go, from the Christian side, it's incredibly annoying. And the New Agers have got it way more together than we do on that score, because from the Christian side, they will always say, well, it's not in the Bible. But actually, neither is Facebook, neither are cars, neither is the internet, neither's a whole lot of stuff that we use today as tools.
I can't even get with that argument anymore. Where's it at in the Bible? Where's Facebook? Where's your vehicle? Where's your gas budget?
It's really strange. As for predicting the future, I don't believe that any cards really predict the future, but I would say this. I would say that God is so out to have relationship with mankind that he will use a donkey if he wants to. Yeah. Jesus actually said, if you don't praise me, the very stones will cry out. Oh, yeah. He doesn't need us, and he doesn't need our cards. He doesn't need He is dying to reach humanity into a loving relationship with them. And if the stones cry out, so be it. But people are going to get a shock when that happens, because I think a lot of the church hasn't woken up to the fact that a lot of the New Age has much truth in it. And they have sought truth with a diligence, with a persistence, with a professionalism that a lot of the church isn't. And I think that to give the New Age credit for that, they've tapped into a lot of some truths in this too. And as you said, you know, God is dying to speak to people, and he'll do it through anything. He doesn't need a card. He doesn't need anything. He'll use anything, the most bizarre things. He'll use anything that you can think of. He will use that. But we love our cards, and we have no intention of stopping using them. Yeah. Despite how disturbing they have been to certain sectors around the world. Our cards are painted by our amazing prophetic seer artists, and the images on our cards are absolutely incredible. And I've had grown men sitting there in absolute bawling their eyes out just over the images on the cards, because they are profound, because the person that painted the cards, the artists that paint them, are seers. And so the cards themselves, the images, carry a very strong anointing for healing and for other things too. So we have no intention of stopping the cards. Yeah.
That's awesome. People, you know, and I guess it's only right. So people want to say, okay, what kind of biblical examples do you have? I have some, and I know you have some as well. I don't know that the disciples had cards per se, but they did have a bag of sticks or bones or whatever you want to call it that they called the casting of lots. And there's many examples throughout the Bible. Yes. And I know we talked about this. You're not really keen on the word divination, but I think that the way it was used by Joseph and by Laban and these people, they used it in a beautiful manner. In several places, Joseph said, do you know, it's like he said, pretty much, why are you lying to me? Do you not know that a man like me can find out things by using divination? And then Laban says that every lot is of the Lord, that the Lord speaks through the lot. And it's the casting of lot. It's the luck of the draw. Whoever gets the shortest straw. That type of life-changing experience on the luck of a draw was because God has his way through it, because we believe it. Yeah. So much so that in the New Testament, you know, the apostles did it, or the disciples did it, to find out who the 13th disciple would be after Judas. Which is very important, because that was a very, very important decision for them at that time. And just as our words of knowledge are very, very important, you've got a client in front of you and it's going to change their life. And it's very, very important to be accurate. And it's interesting, the disciples who heard God very well and who were seers and could hear the voice of Christ very easily, they also did not want to make a mistake about that very important decision. Yeah. Because they probably have bias and opinions as well, right? They said, well, I like Matthias. I like this other guy better. I've known him for years. I feel more comfortable with him. Yeah. And they say, well, I want this guy to be. So hold on, wait. Let's let the Lord figure it out. Totally, okay, God, who is it, God?
They would have had,
and he speaks through it. That's what he does.
Yeah. He does.
And this is it's a very similar way that he speaks through cards or whatever. If you have the faith, if you don't have the faith, he can't speak through anything, because without faith it's impossible to please God. And it takes faith to access these realms or whatever. But when you step out in faith and you begin to see manifestation, you begin to see people weeping and in tears and getting healed, then you say, hold on, your religion and your theology, hold on, this is changing lives and stuff. And you can find it in the scripture. And a lot of people, we talk about the Calvinists and the Reformed theology people, like they they always put all this weight upon the church fathers as far as being like John Calvin and Wesley and all of these all patriarchs of Western evangelicalism, like they are the patriarchs. I'm like, hold on, I don't care about those guys. Let's go back a little bit further and see what the disciples in Christ did. Hold on. They were healing people. They were going into trances. Yeah. They were traveling to heaven in visions so real they didn't know if they took their body with them or not. I want that. You can keep all of this. Here's he said, she said stuff.
You look at that example of Peter. Philip was translated to a different location. Now, that is fully supernatural. And then you look at the account of Peter's shadow healed whole towns, just the actual shadow, not Peter touching them, but his shadow was able to heal crippled people and people with diseases or possessed by spirits. And that's powerful. That you're talking about very powerful supernatural stuff.
Do you know who Damon Thompson is, the minister? Was at the rant with Karen Wheaton. And you mentioned Maddie Montgomery. Maddie Montgomery moved to Alabama to be discipled under Damon Thompson. Okay, I was just listening in passing one day. I used to listen to a lot of Damon Thompson, and he was at a big revival, and he just said this in passing. He said he started talking about Peter and his shadow healing people, and in passing he said that's his aura, but we can't even talk about that because y'all gave it to the New Age. He said, okay, moving on before y'all run me out of here. I was like, oh, wow, Damon Thompson knows a little bit when it comes to that stuff, too. I thought that was really neat.
That's so neat. Yeah, we fully believe this because we're operating in it 4 days a week, and we can prove it. We even had a guy came up to us at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival, and he said his specialty in the New Age is measuring energy. That's what he said. And he goes, he stood outside our booth for ever so long, and then we asked him like what he was doing, and he said, your booth has a 3-meter energy radius of white light all around it. Like you could actually tell where it ended. And that's amazing because the Peter's shadow thing is huge for us and huge on the team. The team are being trained to walk in that, 4 days a week and we're seeing that we barely have to touch someone now for them to be healed. Yeah. And I mean, when Jesus said even a word, the person was healed who lived far, far away. Yeah. So their power, the energy in the spoken word, I think we haven't even begun to tap into. I think the realm of supernatural healing, we haven't even touched the surface of it. And I think New Agers are genuinely seeking that and wanting to know what is that, what am I missing, what is this power? Yeah. And, we're seeing that Peter's shadow at work more and more. And, in fact, this year we've seen more legs grow out more than we ever have before. Many, many legs are growing out, even up to 2 inches. And when they do, the person stands up and their back condition is just gone. It's just healed totally. Yeah, that's beautiful. There's a lot of people with videos of that. And I had a guy the other day. For me, that's old. Like I've seen that years ago. It's not old for that person who it happened to, right? It means the world to them, and it should. But I had a guy hit me up and say, "Hey man, my pastor prayed for somebody and their leg grew out. I never seen such a thing." I was like, "Yeah, God does that all the time. It's beautiful, man." Good. I got a couple more questions I want to ask you. When it comes to trance, right? The Bible uses that word in the King James and some other versions. It says that I was in a trance on the Lord's day. I was caught up in a trance here. I was caught up in a trance there. The angel of the Lord spoke to me in a trance. I feel like Western Christians believe that they were just walking to the next city or walking to the grocery or whatever, and the Lord just
pull them into a trance. That's what they believe. I tend to see true Christianity as a spiritual practice that comes from the East, where this was something that they would practice. They would sit in silence, like the Bible says, and know that he is God, meditate upon his works and who he is, and close your eyes. And what happens, even if music's playing, you go into a trance. Do you think it was like this one-time thing of them just going about their way and they just got sucked into a trance, or trance state and prayer and meditation was something that the disciples practiced?
No, I totally agree with you. I believe that it was a 24/7 lifestyle, and I believe that's what we're called to now, to be 24/7 in that state where you can receive a trance from God or a vision from God 24/7, so that there's no separation between going to the supermarket and receiving a vision or trance
live
from
there.
God. We live there.
Yeah.
We live there. We don't move out of that place.
You don't turn it off and on. Yeah.
Nah, we don't move. We don't move. We stay there 24/7. So talking to God too is like we don't even have to set aside a particular time. Though that's a good practice. Though,
Yeah.
But if you're 24/7 talking to God, if you're 24/7 hearing what he's saying and being in communion with him, then anything's possible. There's no limits. And I agree with you totally that the Western church has moved right away from the understanding of how it actually happened in the Bible. You've got the case of angels too. They thought Peter knocking on the door was his angel. That means they were actually fully accustomed in those days to seeing angels and for the presence of angels to be around. And I think we've lost it. We've lost that now. But hopefully we're getting back. We're reclaiming that back.
I think we are, and I think you doing this interview and just being open. There's power in authenticity, and not hiding anything. Say, hey, this is who we are. This is what we do. It worked for me. It can work for you too. Because there's people who are hungry. They're not getting the answers that they're looking for in religion. They have to move into relationship, and so, there's rules and dogmas and all kinds of weird demonic stuff that has infiltrated religion. Let's just be honest. And so it's hard to just be the person God called you to be interested, to explore and be yourself. You have, it's hard to come out of that though. Right.
It is very hard to come out, especially maybe if you were brought up in it too, or you had experiences as a child in it, to come out of religion. And religion just kills. It kills with the letter of the law. Yeah. It kills by defining people, which is not what, I don't believe that's God's heart at all. I believe his heart is imaginative creator, and that people actually, he loves their freedom. He celebrates their joy. He celebrates their happiness and all the creative things that they want to do. And we do have to reclaim that in the church. And it's hard. It's made it very hard for us, because for us talking to New Agers all the time, we can fully understand why they don't want anything to do with religion.
It's probably the same reasons you don't, right?
That's right.
Come on.
That's right. We don't want it either. No, we don't. And we've experienced freedom too.
Yeah. The whole thing with that, I'm just reminded of the scripture, of just the gospel in general, that we are given the ministry of reconciliation, for being able to forgive people of their sins. Yes. Not that God will forgive you, or he might forgive you if you repeat this prayer, but no, you're already forgiven, and just step into that, understand who you are, that he has this great love for you. He's not going to do these things. He's already done it, and really just declaring it to people puts us in a place now where we get to represent Christ, or represent him, because you've seen a cheap alternative or a cheap knockoff that had all these hidden agendas and biases and stuff. And people are precious, man. And God, you know, God, he loves everybody. And I'm not going to stand for your only representation of Christ was Fred Phelps in the Westboro Baptist Church, that God hates sinners. And that's your, so you made a decision about Christ based off of that. He's not holding, God's not holding, he's not holding you to that. No. That's not God, you know.
No.
So that's where we come in, you know.
That's not God. That's nothing like the God that, I mean, at one festival in New South Wales, it's a hippie festival and dress is optional. So if it's hot, half of them are naked. And there's about 10,000 people in there. And we get queues of 200 people lining up for a destiny reading. A lot of them are naked and they are hungry, man. They are hungry. And you know what? Those hippies, they can really tell what is a genuine experience with the love of God. They can tell that very easily. And when they sit down and have a destiny reading, they can feel whether it's real or not, because they're not into fake and they're not into religion and they're not into stuff like that. But we love that festival possibly the most of all the festivals because it's free and people are free there and they can do what they want to there without restriction.
Yeah. And the beautiful thing is you don't go there trying to convert anybody. That's a big key thing. No. I found so much healing when I stopped that. When I stopped trying to convert someone, it took all the work off of me and put it on God. Oh, I don't have to convince them. I don't have to trick them. I don't have to trick them to follow God. You know, I just, you know, let them see Christ. So you just go there operating in the spiritual gifts and abilities and operating out of love and see lives transform. You don't
absolutely.
I know you have an agenda and you know what I'm saying? Your agenda is just to show up and love people, which it should be all of our agendas, no matter where we go. And like people have a problem with that. It's so weird.
Of course it should be. I mean, the amazing thing about God is that he's given all human beings free choice and free will. And if God has given people the free will to either choose him or not, then we should also operate in that as well. We can't force it's wrong to try and force people to choose God because they must come to him in their own heart, in their own way, in their own time. That's how he honors them. And so we must honor them with the same way that he honors. And he gives humans free choice. And choice is part of the human DNA. And I just believe that, a lot of damage has been done by probably well-meaning Christians that have abused that honor, the honoring of a person, of their free will.
Yeah, I think that, we find out that there's a lot of insecurities when it comes to the afterlife, when it comes to faith and which sect of Christianity do I believe in? Am I right? And so if we share our truth with someone or convince them or trick them, I was even happy with tricking someone. Just, hey, man, say this prayer, just getting them to do that.
Too
and there's this weird notion that it makes us feel more like validated in our truth if we get more people that believe us. I can't be wrong. See, all of these people believe me. Oh, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's just weird. It's selfish. That's selfish.
It's to do with a selfish identity very much. Yes, a selfish identity issue, and people from even New Agers have got a right really to question a selfish motive that's coming from that. Hey, Derek, I did not charge up my phone properly.
It's about to go dead on us?
I think so.
Okay. Well, if we can go ahead and end it here. I did have some more questions. I'd love to have you on again.
Do you want me to go and will I exit and go and get the charger?
Sure. We have a few more minutes. It would only take a second. I can continue the show.
It'll last.
Okay, go ahead. I'll just keep talking. You can go do that. That's fine. I'll ask you these last few questions, these last few minutes. So sure thing. But it's so beautiful just to see the work that God's doing in everybody's heart. And I wanted to ask you about the whole speaking in tongues thing. I found out there's levels to that. Like there's just this prayer language that we can access like this. We do it. It's our second nature. But sometimes when you travail in prayer, a lot of times through deliverance, when there's evil spirits or unclean spirits on someone and you put your hand on them, it's hard for me to explain, but another voice comes out. It's stronger. It sounds like it's for mine. It sounds like an old Native American man. Wow. It's very stern. Every time it comes forth, something leaves out of that person. Breakthrough happens. They hit their knees, tears. We're all trembling. It's really interesting. It's a new level of just versus my regular praying in tongues. Have you? Is there deeper levels of travailing, of authority that you've experienced as well?
Yes, we definitely have. And we've heard. I've heard Ken's, my husband's, tongue change greatly. The language change into a completely different language. At that hippie festival, actually, one of our team members was speaking in tongues over a client, and the client was from Israel, and they said, "Did you know that you're speaking perfect Hebrew?" And they don't know Hebrew at all. But the amazing thing was they translated it, and it was so awesome because the words I was saying were actually almost like God was speaking back into the person about their own identity. It was incredible. Incredible. Yeah.
That's what I messaged you earlier. It took me even to another level of just starting to write down some of those syllables that I'm saying over and over. Like, is it just gibberish? Some people believe it's just the brain running. It's gibberish. I'm like, well, let me just see, because there's some phrases that I'm saying over and over. Let me try to write them down. Let me get on Google Translate, look it up.
It's so fun.
And there's beautiful messages coming through. And it's like, oh my goodness. And like, I'm talking about even like names of angels that mean beautiful things. I am the one who is for humanity. My heart for humanity. If you want to, like, there's some really interesting messages that are coming through, and it just blows my mind. I've never been taught this.
We've actually, in the festival we're doing in 5 weeks, we've been given the amazing opportunity, the huge New Age festival, Australia's biggest New Age festival, where we're paying a lot of money to go in as a stand in that festival. We've been asked to come up on the stage and sing in the angelic languages for 1 hour.
I seen that video. I seen that video,
So that was a short one, though. This one is 1 hour non-stop. So 1 hour non-stop can be quite challenging, really. But we're going to release healing and freedom and deliverance over everyone. And last time it was really incredible with the other one, because we had many people sitting in that audience who came to connect with the spirit of their dead loved one, and some had suicided. So it was very powerful, and we were able to connect with the audience at the end of that singing time. And the organisers called it the singing in tongues of angels. I think they weren't sure what it was actually.
Yeah. But I mean, why not? I mean, I've had people reach out to me who have books called Light Language and the Language of the Angels, and they want to know, hold on, I got some truth on that. I got some input on this light language and how to access it and what happens and changing the vibration of a room, of a city, of a situation, So it gets pretty deep, and it's interesting. Talking about the dead again, I wanted to ask you, because there's kind of like a resurgence in this thing of the masters who teach. And I know you said you kind of felt weird about the term ascended masters or having other maybe mortals or whatever the case is. But there's like a resurgence of people who are having encounters, claim to be having encounters with Moses, Elijah, Enoch, Jesus. They're appearing to them, teaching them, sharing their hearts.
I do have a bit of knowledge on that. Would you be able to talk with your audience just while I get
sure thing. Go ahead and do that. All right. So yeah, that's something that we've been exploring for a while, and it's been something near and dear to my heart as far as just reading the scriptures on my own, which I've talked about on several occasions, of seeing Jesus step out and do that as well, right? See Jesus go to the Mount of Transfiguration. He goes up there. He meets with Moses and Elijah. And as he's meeting with them, hold on, I would say, as he's meeting with them, he brings two disciples up with him. It might be three. I have to go back and read it, but he brings them up there, and they get to kind of see what's going on behind the scenes. Jesus is always beckoning them to come and pray with him. Like, come, stay up a little bit longer. I got some things I want to show you. And they're always falling asleep and stuff. When he prays, he either goes into a cave or he goes on top of a mountain. And then we kind of get to see the first time they bring pretty much like bring a camera in. You get to really see what happens when Jesus goes to be alone with his Father. And at this time, it was at the top of a mountain, the Mount of Transfiguration, as it's called. Moses and Elijah shows up. I'm under the impression that could have been happening every time he went into the secret place with his Father.
Yeah.
There's nothing that says it didn't. That's the first time we got to see what was happening, right?
Yeah. I agree. I think that he walked in that probably 24/7. Yeah. I do, yeah.
It's interesting there, because we also have people, and this is the Eastern thought, that your master, the one your yogi who taught you, when they pass, you can commune with them. Obviously, Jesus communicates with us. Jesus' elders communicated with him from the beyond, and then we have some church people now saying that they're meeting with Bob Jones, noted prophets who existed in our lifetime, saying that the Lord led them to a hotel room to fast and pray. The apparition or spirit of Bob Jones appeared and said something to them and had a conversation with them. We have. The whole thing with this is that we have to be careful in everything. So all the people who are always saying, be careful. Yes, but we cannot stifle exploration of the spirit. So there should be some type of way to approach this, to definitely judge it by the scriptures. But what would you say, even to the people who, because, we see Jesus doing it, but do you think that other people are having it with Moses, Elijah, the saints of old, and then even their predecessors of like people who existed in our lifetime? How do you feel about that from the scripture standpoint?
I would say that anything that detracts from Jesus isn't good. I would say anything, even any ascended master appearing or Elijah appearing or an angel appearing, anything that actually detracts your attention away from Jesus as the source, as the center, can easily become a doctrine, can easily become a theology, can easily become very distracting. And I do believe that as lower spirits are always watching what we do and hearing what we do and watching this. I do believe some of these things are open portals where spirits can attach themselves to that person's private experience. And I think that's a good word, private, because many of these experiences that people are having, they're having in private. So there's no collective voice, or there's no person to monitor that except the person in private that's having that one experience. And you're absolutely right. There are many books now written about people seeing Elijah, and I didn't know about Bob Jones. But,
it's a big one now. Everybody's seeing him. He's popping up everywhere. Yeah.
And maybe they'll see John Paul Jackson.
Yeah, they're showing up. They're not done. I don't know. It's an interesting thought, and I just
don't know. I really don't know about that one.
I don't either, but I can't rule it out just because I do see some things in the scripture that kind of lean to that. I really understand Christianity as not a spiritual practice from the East, but the spiritual practice from the East. And I think that a lot of those things we see in movies or see in Hinduism or Buddhism, they were taken from Christianity, right? And then so the churches have just kind of given it up or whatever the case is. So
for sure,
it's worth exploration, but doing it in the right way. And I think at the end of the day, to really say if it's of God or not, I don't care what it is. I don't care if you're seeing angel feathers and diamonds appearing, gold teeth, gold dust. That's beautiful. I don't care. I don't care about your doctrine, your evangelism. I don't care. I care about the fruit of it. Jesus told me, he told us to judge by the fruit. What happens when these encounters happen? Like you said, do they take your eyes off of Jesus? Do they put your eyes on something else, on yourself, on how powerful you are, whatever the case is? And so you always have to judge the message, because that's the fruit. That's the only thing we can judge. Fruit doesn't lie. People lie.
That's right. It doesn't.
Fruit don't lie.
And I mean, people are free to have any kind of mystical, supernatural experience when they're on their own. And that's wonderful. And to them, that experience might be very real.
Yeah.
And it's just as real in the new age to the individual person that's having that experience. But it is definitely the fruit that's coming out of it.
Yeah.
And does it, I always say, okay, did the early disciples that walked in such power, like Peter's shadow, did they have that? Did they need it? Did they need that? And I come back to the answer is no. No, they actually didn't need that, because they walked in a pure relationship with Christ the Master. And like, I feel that adding things on to that, even though they're amazing and mystical, and I agree with you, I wouldn't say to someone what you just saw isn't real, or what you just, that would be harsh, because they believe they're seeing it. But to add on to the perfect truth or the perfect love that you already have, to add something else on, to me, puts a question of their identity maybe in doubt, where they're seeking maybe not to have an added experience. Like the Elijah thing, I know about that one very well. And
well, that's the thing with a lot of the criticism from the church realm with us who may be more into the spiritual things or whatever. They'll say that you're not supposed to seek those things. And so when we're talking about the trance, even the trance thing, they say that, okay, that happened, but they didn't seek it. Like, but I believe you have to, it's this weird thing about, like, you're not supposed to seek encounter, you're not supposed to seek this or whatever. And I think it's a weird cop out, but that's where they draw the line, is seeking it. Angel encounters do happen, but you're not supposed to seek after them. Where does that, what do we say to that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a really fine line, because God is supernatural, and so he would want us to experience, I mean, after we're dead, if we believe in heaven after we're dead, we're going to have the most massive non-stop supernatural experience all out. How are we going to cope with that? If we're not having any supernatural experiences here on earth, how are we going to cope with an eternal one that's going to blow your mind? Like, so I believe that I agree with you. I just think that people should be free to seek experiences in God, or to be open.
That's good. I like the fact that you said in God. That's the clause for me. It always is.
God's not in a box. You can't put him in a box. And
you said we've just scratched the surface to a lot of these things, right?
Yeah. I think so.
But moving further from on that surface is in God. People come to me, they want an encounter, they want an experience. Experience it with God. Don't ask me. Like, I can help you and just show you and tell you what I do and bring you in that realm. But you have to have that relationship right with God. And
Totally,
whatever he allows you, look, if John Paul Jones shows up, if God did it and you went through that, all supreme, all knowing, I can't do nothing about that. And I can't say nothing on it. So everything is in and out of that. No fear. Perfect love casts out all fear, to experience whatever realms, whatever devils may come, whatever angels, whatever people, serpents, snakes, whatever we have to deal with. If it's through God, he sent us here. He's going to protect us, and he's going to allow us to experience it. Him as a creator, he's like, you know what? You're like, you look at your realm. He's like, look, I got some muckness. Yeah. And when I create a song or anything, a painting, a picture, a podcast, when I create something, this is my baby. It wouldn't have existed if I didn't work on it and breathe life into it. And I'm excited for people to partake of it and to show it off and to share it with them. And you know who I get it from? My dad. He's excited. Right. Oh, you like looking at the sun? Oh, check out the wind. Hey, close your eyes. Feel the wind. How does that make you feel? I made that. I made that. I got some other things I want to show you too. Close your eyes. You like this? And it's just that by itself of just knowing that he loves showing off the things that he's created, and we're made in his likeness and images. It can keep you busy for eternity, right?
I know. We're seeing about 6,500 people a year. And of that percentage, they're all non-religious, non-church-going people. And the encounters that they're having, we're starting to record them. And I don't know about to write a book, but to at least record. We've recorded thousands now of the encounters because they are so mind-blowing. Mm-hmm. They blow every concept that anyone would have of God out of the water. Yeah. I mean, I'll just tell you only one. A lady, her dad had recently died and she was grieving him, so she wanted to connect with the lost dad. And we said, well, we'll see what the Spirit says. So we're never going to say to them, yes, we're going to connect. We don't say, yes, we're going to connect you with your departed loved one. So we said to her, yes, we're going to take you into an encounter, and we'll see what the Spirit does. Well, in the encounter, the gift giver came to her as her dad, and she started crying, and we asked her what's going on. She said, well, I see my dad. He's standing there in heaven, and he's talking to me. And then she said, hang on a minute, another person has appeared. And we said, describe what that person's like. And they said he's got dark hair, beard, a mustache, long robes, and he looks very white, like white light. And she said, my dad is talking to that person. And we said to her, what is your dad saying? She said, my dad just turned to me and he said to me, from now on in your life, I want you only to follow the Spirit of truth. Now, that is profound, because not only didn't she not make that up, but we did not make it up or enhance that to happen. And they're having encounters like this. And as soon as she opened her eyes at the end of it, she said, the very first thing I'm going to go home and do is throw out all my tarot cards. That's what she said. Mm-hmm. And we said nothing throughout the whole encounter. And at the end of it, she said, I want you to show me how to get the Spirit of truth into my life. How do I have a relationship with this spirit, not all the other spirits that I've been having? Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's pretty typical of an encounter with the team, where we're seeing God break out of the box into the most incredible. One lady, she saw a starfish and the starfish started talking to her. Things like that, like really crazy, but she knew it wasn't really a starfish. She knew it actually was the highest spirit. So, yeah.
That's awesome. here within the last few minutes of the podcast, if anybody has any questions for Jenny, y'all post them in the comment section and I'll try to relate them over if anybody has any questions. One thing, because we were talking about like people having their own personal encounters and then having weird mystical experiences and stuff. There's something missing from many prophetic circles and many experiences here, even prophetic words and sharing. You need to be careful. There's a lot of weird people. There's a lot of people with agendas, a lot of people who aren't, they don't walk in a level of integrity. There's mixed messages that come through. All types of things can get in the way of that flow of God's spirit. So you got to be careful. One thing in the scriptures I'm noticing, Corinthians 14 talks about a lot, but there was usually a judge there, someone there who maybe wasn't biased, who can listen to the prophetic word and say, "Hell, I don't think that's God," or "I don't think that's, hey, this is getting too weird," versus everybody just going in. There was always a judge there. Have you guys explored that at all? Like the judge who was there, just kind of making sure everything was, kosher?
Yeah. What do you mean, just with our team?
Yeah, just having someone there to be like, "Hey guys, I think we might be getting too far out," or "I don't think that was God." Because some people, they might give a word and it's right on, and then they just try to keep following up, and they really undo all the work that they just did. Well,
probably all I can say about that is that we're extremely strict with the team, and we monitor what they're saying constantly. So they're basically always under training, even when they've been with us for 9 years. So if we hear a word or a prophetic word that they're saying that doesn't sound right, or that's off in any way, we will tell them straight away and pull them up on that. And for Ken and I, we have people that we turn to as well who are mentors, who we would ask, what do you think about this idea? Is this on track, or is this, way out there? Because there does need to be that safety in the whole spiritual realm. And one of the scary things about, for instance, the festival around Australia, Mind, Body, Spirit, there is no control. And even the fact that people are coming to us for a reading, they don't know who we are. They don't know what we're going to say to them, but they blindly trust any psychic and any reader for information without really knowing, is it safe? And I think the safety issue is a huge thing, and it should be addressed on probably in all levels, actually.
I've I come from that background of just the dark occult stuff, psychics. I lived in New Orleans, right on the outskirts of New Orleans. We visited New Orleans around Bourbon Street with my family several years ago. I don't think we was just around Bourbon Street. I don't even know if we went there. And but there was an alley. It was the psychic alley where all the psychics are set up, and there was probably 30 tables of 30 different people who are some of them are hearing familiar spirits, some of them are tuned in. It was just the most intimidating. Some of them on drugs. And you can feel it. Like me being an empath as well and being able to discern spirits, I'm like, oh, Lord. Okay. And they're all looking at you. They all want you to come get a reading from them. And you're looking at like, hey, there's a potential client. You're like, oh, God. Says I got to get off of this street. You have to, like, the integrity and the lifestyle of a person means the world. And if someone who's... So we can talk about this. Maybe nobody knows what I'm talking about. They say, well, you can't judge those people. Usually when you're first starting off in the prophetic, you notice you start judging people and you're like, hold on. Why do I know things about these people? I shouldn't. Why am I doing that? I shouldn't be judging. And you're like, wow, I know that person's past. I know their friends. You're like, what's going on? Like, that's what happened for me. But those energies can be hard to balance. And that's why the spirit of the prophets are subject unto the prophets, and we have to come together and talk about this stuff and be open and honest.
True. It's true. Or we've actually there have been prophets around the world that have questioned our ministry as well.
Yeah.
But it's just taken them a little bit of time to understand really what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And we have listened to them. One of the main things that some people keep saying is, we want you to stop using cards, you know. And we say, well, that's the one thing, we're not going to stop using them. So they realise that, well, maybe they're not such a bad thing after all. And we've had a lot of discussions around that sort of stuff.
It has nothing to do with the cards. It's just what they relate it back to. Cards, tarot readers, psychics, demons. Oh, that's not good. Now, hold on, wait. These cards have nothing to do. There's not even, like, what do you... It's this weird thing, you know, it's just...
Yeah. And the really awesome thing is, in the New Age in Australia now, we're really well respected by psychics, and they will come to us for readings themselves. And we're actually good friends with some witches. So we're actually able to talk now on a different level with them, and on a one-to-one level, on a more of a friend basis. And they know which spirit we're operating from. They know that we're only using Christ, and we make that very, very plain and very obvious that we're not channeling any other spirit guide or any weird spirit. And they respect that. And they're actually, they've renamed our tent at one witchcraft festival here the Healing Tent. So they recognise us as healers, that we're coming into the environment as a team of healers, and they really do actually respect the gifting that the seer gifting.
Yeah.
I think the church falls down on that one.
It's so weird because you're talking about, you have to have these people, you have to be connected. You'll go crazy if you're not. You have to find somebody you can talk to, especially when in the early days of this kind of stuff, right?
Oh yeah.
All of your peers are lashing out. They're talking behind your back. Most of the time, they never talk to you. They just talk about you. And that, and as someone who's sensitive to the spirit, you can feel it. You can feel it. The next time you see them, why won't they look me in the eyes?
Yeah.
Oh, they've been involved in gossip and slander.
I think when my husband died, when he suicided, we were told by a group of prophets that the enemy was going to take out my whole family. And indeed, in his side of the family, many suffered mental illness after that, after he got that. But it made me learn one thing, is that when he died, I realized that was very serious, and it affected not just my whole future life, but my kids' lives. I realized that the enemy isn't playing games. And it taught me something about the enemy's personality, and that is he's out to kill. Yeah. He's out to actually really destroy people. And so I thought, I'm not going to play games anymore either. And it was in that moment I lost all fear of him, complete loss of fear. I said, okay, you've done the worst you can do to me in my life. You've destroyed my marriage. You've taken out my husband, but that's the end of it. And it was like a point that I reached spiritually where I saw what's really happening in the spirit realm for the first time with unveiled eyes. And I could see that he's actually out to take out everyone. There's no kind spirit guide. There's no nice spirit guide that you can take shopping to Coles and do shopping with, like we've been taught, you know, in some of these other classes. And he's out to actually take you out. And we've had psychics come to us saying, they've been a psychic, say, for 10, 20 years. They'll come to us and they say, can you please help us? And we say, what's wrong? And they said, at first, everything was going great with my spirit guide. Now I'm physically very sick in my body. Help me, because I can't get rid of this sickness. And he's actually out to take people out. And I realized that, and I lost all fear. Yeah,
that's one thing that the New Age gets criticized a lot for, because there's always love and light. Yes. And I think that there's a lot of love and light, because we know how much darkness is out there, and we don't want to dwell or perpetuate darkness, but we have to be honest. Like, you have to deal with that side too. Usually first, you got to deal with the darkness first in your own life, especially before you can help others. But that's definitely, you know, those realms exist, and those entities that want to deceive and all of those type of things really exist, and they're really smart at what they're doing, but they hold no power to King Jesus. That's the good news. That's the gospel.
The good news.
So we do have another question here. This is from CT the Alchemist, my good friend Chad here. Chad's ask, let's see if I can scroll back to his comment. There's a lot of activity. Are there any other mystical experiences with Yeshua, Jesus, and his direct messages? Any more like one-on-one?
Wow.
I know every day is a one-on-one encounter with Jesus, right? But maybe any type of different manifestation where he's come through in such a way where he made the room shake or something, you know?
Yeah, totally. One that comes to my mind, a quick one, is on Christmas Eve with my daughter, just her and me alone in the house, and we felt something move at the front door. We looked towards the front door, and we saw a being of light walking through the door and arriving in the house. And we were pretty excited at that. At that very point, her face, little particles of gold started appearing like gold oil all over her face, and it went down from her face, traveled down her neck, down onto her clothes, until she was actually sitting there. We were by now nearly screaming because this was an amazing spiritual experience. It was a manifestation of not only the glory of Yeshua, but it was a manifestation probably of the angelic presence that had just walked in the door. And it was really amazing. We tried to take photographs of it, but they didn't photo very well. But on the outside of her coat and skin, these particles of gold were gold color, but when she took off her black jacket, the whole inside, every single particle was silver. They were two different colors.
Wow.
And that's impossible. That's just impossible. And in that, like you said, the proof is in the fruit of it. The fruit of it was that we could literally tangibly feel the presence of Yeshua in the room, without having to see him in a bodily form. It was just crazy. Like the oil was literally, you could put it in a glass. It was dripping off her hands. It was just dripping. And since then, we've had many experiences of this heavenly dust that people call gold dust. A lot of people say it's fake. Yeah. We've had bed sheets out on the line, covered back and front, straight out of the washing machine. As they hang on the line, one sheet will be covered and there's not one speck of it on any other part that was in that washing machine. And they are miracles that happen as signposts, I believe, towards God. It's like God invading the physical earthly realm, saying, here I am, I'm here, I'm real. Like, look at me because I'm real. And it just made us feel so much love and so much wonder and so much joy that he would bother to put gold stuff on a sheet. We actually shook a lot of it into little boxes, and we still have them to this day. They're now about 7 years old, and we haven't bothered to have it scientifically analysed, but the amazing thing is it doesn't lose its intensity, in shine, in glory, like in brightness. And even when you hold the box with it in, it is supernatural, that you cannot say this is not from heaven, because it is a touch from heaven for sure.
That's awesome. I remember, and it was probably 97, 98. a lot of that stuff was coming out. At least I seen it for the first time on VHS tapes that were passed around, and people copied them. And there's worship services where this lady's patting her hair, and all this gold's coming out of her hair, and they're catching it in in her Bible, and it's just all this gold just coming out of her hair. And I remember seeing that, and it was so real. And I never, it was on video though, and I never experienced it in person, but I would have crazy dreams. I would have dreams that I was covered in gold dust, and I'd wake up looking for it, and it's so funny that it just kind of like transferred over into the dream state. But it was just like a representation of the glory of God. And in those days, I remember the guy who led me to the Lord. He told me about they were having experiences with the gold dust and stuff, and praying in circles, and gold just manifesting all over the children and stuff, and they were blown away. They were really big into the miraculous and to the supernatural. And an evangelist came to town, and the pastor had pulled them aside, and they talked about it, and he like checked them from the pulpit. Some of y'all out here are getting into gold dust and things you shouldn't be. And it's like talking about this weird stuff from the pulpit, like checking them or whatever. It was really strange when he told me about that. But there's something that there's a power trip too. There's like this, and I've noticed it as someone who comes into the church as a young man, full of the Holy Spirit, on fire for God. People come to you for prayer, like because you have what the pastor used to have. When that becomes you, and there's many young men and women across the globe who that's their story, a lot of times it puts a target on your back, because now, okay, why are they coming to you for prayer? You should come to the pastor for prayer. You should come to the elders versus this person here in the congregation or whatever. And you see a lot of people, you see the dark side of religion and of control, and of witchcraft, really. True witchcraft, honestly, manipulation. True witchcraft is control, for sure. A lot of them are operating in it, and it's sad that people go into that unknowingly. You mentioned one thing about people, how they could, and I've talked about this many times too, they can come out of bondage. They can come out of drugs and the occult and sex trade. They can come out of all kinds of stories, right? This stuff they were in, and put off one bondage only to pick up another, not even knowing, and that could be the bondage of religion. The weird thing is that we go to these churches, we go to prayer meetings, we have an encounter, and we want to grow in that encounter. We want to maybe recreate that encounter. Who is this God that I encountered? Well, come to our church. We'll help you. But then there's dogma, there's rules, do's and don'ts, and all of this stuff. You're like, this has nothing to do with what I experienced, and a lot of people are experiencing that.
There's so many new ages that we see that have now had these most incredible experiences with Christ, the Spirit of Christ, who now want to go to a supernatural church where healing is normal, and where these experiences are normal. And I tell you, they're hard to find, even in Australia. They're few and far between. To find a place where they can actually grow in healing and grow the seer gift, the prophetic gift, so that they can operate in this and grow in a safe place. But, I mean, hopefully this is going to change.
I think it is.
I believe it is changing slowly.
It is. It is. I see growth in my show just by being, and I don't think I'm doing anything special as far as like, oh, you have the anointing or whatever. Yes, I do. But we all have the ability to tap into that. But I do think there is power in authenticity, and that's what we haven't seen. You have to play the role of a hypocrite. The definition of hypocrite is someone who wears many masks in a play, and you wear this mask around these people, and around these people, you're someone else. And in church or religion, we have to wear those masks, and so people are taking those masks off, and they want to know what it looks like. We don't claim to have all the answers. We know the one who does. And all I'm doing on my end, and I'm sure you as well, is just doing and being open and honest about what works for you. Hey, I've tried this. It doesn't work. Don't do that. Don't open your mind and body to any spirit that wants to come through. Please don't do that. Do this. It works. We have proof. It'll help you. And so no one can say anything about that. That's your story. That's your experience. And you're being authentic to yourself. There's power in that, man.
There is. I don't know if we answered that guy's question okay, but
no, he's in the chat. He said it was. He's like, man. He said it was beautiful. Other people are saying that they got chills listening to it. Someone said that their heart chakras lighting up listening to you share about Christ. You know, the whole weird thing about Christ and the heart chakra thing is the fact that we would always see the image, the Catholic image of the Sacred Heart on fire.
As soon as you said that, I thought of that. Yeah,
I always think of it.
Absolutely. I always think of that too. Yeah.
I did an album, right? So I did an album entitled Colors, and it was 7 songs, one based off of each chakra. I'm not an expert on the chakra, don't even know that they exist, but I do know that they represent different things in our lives, our root problems, our root issues, our relationships, our spiritual ear to be able to hear the voice of the Lord, and we have things that block them up, so they're symbolic. So I did a whole album just kind of dealing with those on like a spiritual level and like relating it back to Christ and the Bible and stuff, and people are getting rocked listening to it. It's a hip-hop album, and it's exciting, man, just to see, just to go in there, go to some people who've, they're not going to listen to a gospel album, and a Southern gospel or a gospel rap, but they'll listen to one that's using their terminology. And I'm going in. I'm literally, I'll tell them, I don't care, because they find it, in the end, they know the truth. So they find out, I'll tell them straight up, look, I'm going in as a sheep in wolf's clothing. I'm trying to infiltrate these people, and it's working. And yes, we get naysayers. Yes, we get people who make fun of, they don't like what I'm doing on the Christian side and the New Age and the philosophical side. They think I'm silly, whatever, but it's not for them. It's for the 1 or 2 people who watched a video with me interviewing a psychic or whatever the case is, and they say, man,
it's true.
There's something about when he talks. There's something about when he prays. What is it? Let me tune in. Let me check it out. And and they inquire for more. And I really think, like I said, over all the publicity that you guys got over the last year or two, a lot of it was bad and negative, and people jump on the bandwagons. But they're pretty much what they say. Any promotion is good promotion. There is no bad promotion. It's putting you in front of people who would have never heard you. And forget the naysayers. They're a dime a dozen. They're gonna keep coming. There's no end to them. Whatever. But it's for the 1 or 2 young people who feel marginalized. They don't have nobody to talk to. They're having dreams. They're having visions. Pastor says it's a demon. They don't know who to talk to. They look on YouTube. There's 2 seers being open and honest about their experience with the spirit realm and with Christ. Now they have more questions. Now I'm tuning in next week. Now I'm going to email them. I get them every day. Every day. It's totally worth it. Keep them coming. Keep all the persecution, the fire coming. We know that I know that the anointing comes with that. The more you press down, the more you squeeze the olive, the oil is going to come out. And I think that's the only way it comes out. You have to go through adversity and stand the test and prove that you really believe this, and you're really going to stand for something. And it shows, man. It flows like the glory of God, and it's so beautiful. I embrace it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that just reminded me of another experience that I had with Jesus, and it was after my husband died. In that first 6 months, I'd be on my knees in the lounge, often crying, and I'd be saying, where is he? I wanted to know where the body was, where the body is, which becomes incredibly important when someone does die. The body and the blood become incredibly important, which is really interesting because I never thought of that before that, but of how important the blood is. But after that, I did. But I had this experience where I'd be just crying in the presence of God, and it was as if someone cut a circle in the top of the roof like a portal straight into heaven, and there'd be white light so blinding coming out of it, and I would open my eyes and say, where is the light coming from? And it was actually from this hole in the ceiling. That happened many, many times. And I would encourage any listeners that are going through a really, really hard time in their lives at the moment. The deepest time that the Spirit of Christ, that Jesus met me, was in my worst time. That was when he felt so close to me, and he went all out to actually come in a physical form to me, was when I was desperate. And I'd just encourage anyone who's listening, who's going through a really, really hard time, he's actually closer to you than you think. Like, he's closer than breathing all of the time. And all you have to do is reach out to him only a tiny little bit, and he'll take it. He'll take that tiny bit, and he'll really meet you where you're at to heal your heart, or to heal whatever you're going through. Because I feel like there's a few people listening that are going through some really heavy stuff at the moment. And, I just want to really encourage them that you're not far away. He doesn't judge you, and it doesn't matter what you've done in the past, but he's very close to you, and he does have a solution to your life and to your future and for your destiny, and it's good, not bad. It's not bad. It's not going to be a continuation of the bad. It's going to be something amazing in your life.
That's awesome. We have a couple people in the chat also asking about is there any specific meditations or things that they can do to experience that. If you don't mind, can you just take us into just a short prayer, or someone who's watching this, who, they're 2 hours in and they they're excited. They don't know where to start. They want to feel the presence of the Holy Spirit, that Jesus loves them and he's real. Can they feel that through a prayer just by closing their eyes and receiving it? Can you take us there?
Yeah. Okay.
I got some soft music playing too. I know you can't hear it, but it's playing.
This is pretty crazy. Okay, I want you just to close your eyes and imagine your favorite place in the whole world. Where's your favorite place to be in the world? It could be a beach. It could be your bedroom. It could be your lounge room. It could be a forest or a waterfall. And I want you to imagine that you're there right now. Are you sitting or are you standing? Are you looking at the view, or are you just resting? Is it a warm day or a cooler day? Just over to one side of you, out of that scene now, is approaching towards you a gift giver. And he's carrying a gift just for you in his hands. It could be in the shape of a box. It'll have a colour. And he's going to walk over to you and either put that gift into your hands or down at your feet. Can you see that gift? If you can see that gift, I want you to pick it up now into your hands and open the gift box and have a look what's inside. What do you see? I want you to take that gift out and hold it close to your heart. How does it make you feel? Then I want you to say after me, Spirit of Truth, please show me.
Please show me.
What does this gift mean?
What does this gift mean?
He will come to you and he'll speak to you because he's right there in front of you now. Some of you will see him in a physical form in front of you. What do you see? Is he smiling at you? Is he looking at you? You may have a question in your life about your life that you're going through right now. Now's the time to ask him that question. Just say, Spirit of Truth, and then ask him that question that you want the answer for. Ask him this question too. Just say, Spirit of Truth.
Spirit of Truth.
What else do you want to talk to me about?
What else do you want to talk to me about?
Let him come to you. Let yourself feel his love for you. His presence. Just say, Spirit of Truth.
Spirit of Truth.
I ask you into my life.
I ask you into my life.
To be my guide.
To be my guide.
My protector.
My protector.
Show me your love.
Show me your love.
Show me my destiny.
Show me my destiny.
Give me peace.
Give me peace.
Give me supernatural experiences with you.
Give me supernatural experiences with you.
I forsake all other spirit guides.
I forsake all other spirit guides.
I want to know who you are.
I want to know who you are.
Show me your love.
Show me your love.
Many of you would have got a gift box and it would have had a particular color, and those colors mean something. So the gift box, the color that you saw, is often your life, how your life is represented, and it has a really strong meaning. The gift that you saw wasn't your imagination, it was actually real, and he wants to do that for you in your life, to fill your life with love and purpose and a destiny that's eternal. Yeah. Amen.
Amen. Awesome. It's so good.
Yeah.
Anybody, at any time, you can always come back to this moment in the podcast and listen to it again, or share it with a friend or a spouse if you want them to hear it. You can always come back to that. So make sure you guys do that, and hopefully you had an encounter, and it's as close as your next breath is what I say. It's really as deep as exploring the next breath. And so it's beautiful. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go anywhere, but just close your eyes and focus. And so, I'm just reading in the comments here. A lot of people are saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. Amazing.
It's awesome.
Living lights made of love. Awesome. Good stuff. So, Jenny, I really enjoyed this podcast. You speak to you speak to thousands of people per year. You do one-on-one sessions with them, give them readings, help them on their life, their journey, their destiny, reclaim their dream, get that vision of who they really are. Do you do private consultations with people no matter where they are? Do you do phone or Skype consultations and sessions with people as well?
At the moment we don't, but we do give our email, and we do free dream interpretation, and often that involves the consultation because we need to know a little bit about the person's life. So in that way, yes, we do, but we need to see the person in person usually to do the reading. Yeah.
Have you tried it yet? Have you tried Skype?
Not really.
Oh my goodness.
No, I haven't really. I should, I think.
Well, I mean, if you're busy doing what you're doing now, you're in a good place. You don't need Skype. Some of us, I'm in the Bible Belt. It makes things a little bit easier to actually have the internet and reach people where they are. But no, that's awesome though. So do you want to plug your website where people can look up some of your resources and follow what you guys bring to the table?
Sure. I'll give our email, which is very simple. It's just Christalignment@hotmail.com. So Christalignment@hotmail.com. Our website is www.christalignment.org. Our website, though, is designed specifically for people that are searching for people that are in the New Age. It is definitely not geared towards religion in any way. So don't get a shock if you go on our website. You'll think we're a whole bunch of wild hippies on that website. So,
because we are.
That's right, because we really are.
Childlike at heart. We really do have a mixed multitude, but there's a common bond. And I think I really do think it's the Spirit of God. People, they're just trying to find out where they belong, like you say, who they are. What their purpose is. So
everyone, like who we see in Australia, everyone. It wouldn't matter if we go to a football match. It wouldn't matter if we go to a New Age festival or a naked hippie festival. The question is always the same. Why am I on earth? What is my purpose on earth? What is my identity? The same question is the cry of everybody's heart. Who loves me? Why am I here? And that's what we believe is the answer, is Christ, the Spirit of Christ.
That's good stuff. Well, I really appreciate this time you spent with me, and we'll have to catch up off the air too. So maybe sometime tomorrow we'll get some time to talk and catch up. But I really appreciate you coming on, hanging out with me.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've really enjoyed it. It's been really wonderful. And I'll keep praying for all your listeners.
Thank you. Yeah. And we'll do the same for you guys. There's a special gift in it for us to be, the way seers, the thicket clearers, to kind of, make a way for a lot of people. But it's working. Be of good cheer. We have overcome the world.
Yeah,
that's good stuff.
Awesome.
All right, my friend, you have a good day where you are. You're 17 hours ahead of me, so you're Australia. I'm glad we was able to do this. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, Derek.
Right,
bye,
bye-bye.
Everyone. Bye.
Jenny from Christalignment. Beautiful soul, beautiful people. They got a powerful ministry, a powerful movement, we can call it, reaching out to all people groups, and they've undergone a lot of flack, as we all have, right? I think that's one thing. We're talking about this common interest, or this common thing that has brought us together. I think one thing should be persecution. I know many of you personally in the chat, and I know personal stories where you've been persecuted, going through those things. And I really believe, I talked about this yesterday, that the secret, the magic elixir of dreams is blood, sweat, and tears. You're going to have to fight for it. You might have to cry about it a little bit. You're going to have to work hard over it. Whatever it is that you believe, if it's your faith is going to be tested. It's going to be tried. He who endures to the end shall be saved. Don't give up. There's a special reward in it for you if you don't. And if the reward is his presence, it's enough. I could be honest, that's what was in my gift. When I closed my eyes, it was just more of his presence. More of him. I opened it up. It's not a toy, a new trinket, something shiny. It's just more of his presence. That really is our reward, his presence, man. Sustains us and helps us get through this thing. It can be scary out there. It can be hard, man. Behold, I send you out as sheep amongst wolves. It can be hard sometimes, especially when they're from your own fold. That's, friendly fire. Friendly fire. Someone who stepped down from ministry some years ago, a good friend of mine, they had a term. They said, well, you're just a casualty of the ministry. It happens. People will never step a foot back in the church again because of some of these things that people have done in the name of God. That wasn't God, wasn't Christ by any means. That's why we're loving light. Because the world is wicked. Be of good cheer. I've overcome the world. You guys were asking about meditations and things like that to tap into the spirit. I've worked on a couple. I have the chakra alignment meditation. I have the guided meditation into the throne room of God. And I also have the 2 meditations that I just put out, the scripture meditations, where they're just repeating the scriptures over and over with beautiful music for an hour. So one is the focus on financial abundance. I don't think that you're supposed to be broke and begging and borrowing. I think that we're supposed to be the lender and not the borrower. Also, the other one is about healing those who are suffering with pain in their body, pain in their spirits, need spiritual healing, physical healing, emotional, anything you're dealing with. I believe that if you put that meditation on, it's a free download. If you put that on, you'll experience healing. It's in this just repeating healing scriptures over. And I had a beautiful encounter with the Lord while I was recording it, and I know that I captured that on the audio. So head on over to my website, TruthSeekah.com. You can get that. The links are on the Patreon as well. Bunch of cool stuff that we're putting out. Please join us Sunday mornings for the School of the Seers that we're doing. We're doing very similar things to this. We're doing guided meditation, breath work, and healing. And so if you're looking for community, we got many ways that you can reach out. Thursday night, School of the Mystics, all of that good stuff. So I'm also doing private consultations as well, working on some courses. Got some stuff that I'm bringing to the table. Make sure you check out my website to get caught up to date with all this stuff. Sign up for the email list, become a patron. You'll never miss an alert, all that good stuff. Thank you guys again. I really enjoyed this episode, and enjoyed hanging out with you guys as well, reading the chat. Love you guys. Chad says, where can we access the meditation link? If you go to TruthSeekah.com, there's a pop-up that will bring you right to it. But if you want to go directly there, just go to gumroad.com and type in TruthSeekah. Gumroad.com, type in TruthSeekah. That's where my meditations are uploaded. And so the throne room is a really good one. Allie and Kenny saying that they listen to it weekly. And the encounters are beautiful. Thank you, sir. She says, thank you. Yeah, good stuff. Love you guys. And we'll do it again tomorrow. Shalom, shalom. God bless.
Your will is so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine. Your will is so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.